Hello, gamers. It is me, Matt, back again for another datasheet coverage, bit of datasheet coverage for Necrons. We're going to be covering the Triarch Stalker today. Um, Triarch Stalker is one of my newer additions to some of our lists. Me and Andy have been taking it recently. I think Andy recently dropped it again. But we started taking it. I took it to my phalanx list in for the invitational win. I'm going to be riding those coattails for a while. Until I actually win something proper. Um, yeah, I've had a bit of a break recently. I played like 13 games of Warhammer in 10 days or something like that. I played a lot of Warhammer. So just a bit burnt out. Just going to do some videos instead of just continuously playing every single night, because as good as Warhammer is, having a break is also very good. So I'd recommend that if you try and practice a lot of Warhammer, you make sure you have a bit of a break, because I am definitely feeling it. And just, yeah, the late nights and all that jazz. But we're back with another video because Andy's at WCW. So he's taking his Star Shatter, which is going to be awesome. So, and I'm at two RTTs this weekend, talking about having a break, but they're Glasshammer RTTs. So I'm going to be seeing all my old teammates, all my mates, just having a casual, nice weekend and having some drinks and whatnot. So all good there. So the data sheet, let's just get straight into it. The Triarch Stalker, what is it? Well, it's a crab, and he is a bit of an odd shape, and he wasn't really played that much. Um, I'm not going to coin it because people have played the data sheet before me. It's not. I've not invented the thing. I just kind of noticed that when it went down to 110, I was like, wow, this actually is quite good for its points, because it's just very, very durable. It's between this and the Annihilation Barge, right? But I think this is much, much better than the Annihilation Barge. The reason I think it's better is if we have a look at the data sheet, it's movement 8, where the Barge is movement 10, I believe. It's toughness 8. I think the Barge is toughness 8 as well. 3 up save. This has 12 wounds, though, whereas the Barge, I think, only has 9. I could be incorrect, but we'll find out. I'm meant to be a Necron main, and I can't remember every data sheet. But it's OC4, which is insane, to be honest. I say this many times, but playing Avmech, the Necrons have it good. The OC on this thing being OC4 is just crazy for some reason. And it has a 4 of invulnerable save, which is amazing. So toughness 8, 12 wounds, 4 of invulnerable save is awesome. And I apologise if anybody can hear the fireworks, because it is the 5th of November, so there are fireworks going off outside. Why is it good? Well, 110 points for that stat line is just amazing defensively. 4 of invuns are just naturally scammy, as we all know, because always having a save is quite insanely good. So Scout 8, which is really helpful because naturally Necrons have, unless you're playing Wraiths, have a bit of an issue getting to the objectives early. And then this is the rule that I always forget, but it is really good. It shoots something, the rest of your models strips cover off them, basically. Obviously, the weapon choices, you've got the heat ray, which has two versions, two options you can choose. You've got a 2d6 flamer, which is really good for Overwatch against like elves and all that jazz. And then it's got a melter 4 melter, 2-shot melter, which is this is basically Call's melter, but only strength 9, whereas Call has one at strength 14 because he's a badass, and it's only melter 3. So pretty much nothing like Call's melter. Then you've got a particle shredder, which in my opinion is probably the worst one. Strength 7, AP 0, damage 1. It's got the same range as the melter. It only hits on 2s basically. It's just for more wave clear, but AP 0 isn't amazing. And then the heavy Gauss cannon array, which is the longest range one. So if you really want to make use of the stripping of cover, then that's probably one you want to take. I really like the heat ray though. I think the ability to have a flame and a melter on the same gun is really helpful. And then it has the weirdest combat stats going. 4 attacks, 7-1-3. Just crazy. Crazy stats we'll be having out there. 4 attacks, but it's got 6 legs. So, GW, we need a buff. So, yeah, So why run this thing here? So it has a pretty good role where it's one of the first things that you can send out to an objective to basically force your opponent to commit something real to it. 5 JPI probably are not going to kill this thing because, between the mortals and especially if you have a spider sitting behind the wall, because obviously on UKTC you could send this thing to the middle and have a spider behind your main ruin, so you've got a 5 up field pain against more wounds or a 6 up. Normally in Star Shatter you can give it -1 damage at the beginning of the command phase, or in a Basins Phalanx you can just give it -1 damage reactively, which again is why it's so durable, and you're pretty much only going to be seeing it in those 2 detachments. I haven't ran it in any others. There's no real reason that I'd want to run this in any other detachment except Star Shatter and Phalanx. Phalanx, because this actually does benefit from the +1 to wound from your Worthy Foes ability. I believe it's that one. There you go. So it does actually benefit from that, which is quite nice because you can have your Melter wounding Rhinos on 3s, Big Knights on 4s, etc., etc. Dread Knights on 2s, stuff like that. So it benefits from it. It can get the extra OC from the detachment, one of the strats, so it can become OC7, which is crazy. Star Shatter obviously gets +1 to hit. You can put -1 damage on it at the start of the phase. It's got Assault as well, all that stuff. And Stripping Cover is just quite nice. Scout 8 is really helpful because and I'll be obviously going over to TTS in a minute. You can scout it into because of the way that it's angled, because it's kind of like a triangle is the way that it's shaped. A triangle without the tip on one of the ends, because you've got but it's okay. Well, it's sort of like a triangle because it's like that. But then where the legs are, they also dip in like that, so it's kind of like a big V shape almost, and or a W. I mean, I'm just making it even more confusing as I'm saying it, but um, so the legs, the way that they're positioned, fit into the corners of the buildings. If say it's like this, like if you can see my mouse here, it's like this is to be the corner of the building, and the legs can fit like in here. So the angles to shoot it are actually really awkward. Again, it's really tanky. It's good for setting up a good early Overwatch against like little T1, T3 one wound bodies like Sisters, which we're seeing a lot of now after my teammate or our teammate, me and Andy's teammate Jack Tight won Coventry with Sisters. And these things require a bit more commitment than just. I mean, an immolator might get good if it gets its wounds through, but you've got an invuln, right? So um, it's super helpful. Yeah, and I'm sharing the screen. Everyone can clearly see that I'm brain rotted with League of Legends. I've just noticed. So yeah, Star Shatter, very handy. Hits better. -1 damage. Command phase Phalanx, in my opinion, slightly better because -1 damage reactively, extra OC, +1 to wound, stuff like that. So the data sheet is really nice. It's just one of those things that you basically want to be sending out early to force your opponent to commit to them, because in Phalanx, for example, you can just plonk it on a point and your opponent has to put more than 7 OC on that point, which is not a 5-man of like just a 5-man, like just a normal. They can't just no Overwatch a 5-man in Eldar and just put it on there and just be like, right, well, that's the point. Well, no, because you can make OC7. You can make it OC7 in your command phase. It's only your command phase, obviously, but you can make it OC7 in your command phase and then move it onto a point if your opponent's got 7 or less OC and just take it off them. So because it lasts the whole turn until end of your opponent's turn. So, or you know what I mean. But anyway, yeah, it lasts the whole way. So it's really good at just taking primary off people. Again, they hide pretty well. They're pretty tanky for what they are, and they're one of like the first things I like to send out, and they're pretty fast as well because obviously they can move 16 inches first turn. If they're in Star Shatter, they can move up to 22 inches first turn, guaranteed 22 inches first turn if you can scout. So yeah, they're just really good. And in against Ed Watts, when I played him at the Invitational, I had one on either side of the board. So when he tried to send 5 guys to take the point off me, he could only know Overwatch one of them. So then the other one, I can just Overwatch with a 2d6 flamer. That, if you set your +1 to wound in your turn into something you think is going to come and steal the objective, then you're wounding it on 2s against elves, which is crazy good. And if the Silent King's nearby, then you're rerolling 1s, and it gets all kind of crazy. And sometimes the melter can just pop off, and having melter 4 is really, really nice. So let's head over to boom. Look at that. So I'm going to do a UKTC board, and then I'll probably just randomly do a GW board, and I might do a WTC board. So best board to look at is probably this one, which is the Hidden Supplies Search and Destroy board for UKTC. So when I was playing this board, for example, I had 2 of them, and obviously I've got this is the list I took. No, this is an old version because I didn't have a Scorpet Lord, but this is a version. So you obviously have like the Vault kind of here, Silent King here, with his boys, and then a spider you can have here or whatever. So I deployed these on the line, so then I can either move them 8 inches back, so they're hidden behind this, so your opponent can't like come out and shoot. And obviously I've got DDAs like here, like behind this angle, so you can't see you there. And then a DDA, we sometimes pretty much here. And on UKTC you can deploy like this, even if because normally it's if you can fit. If you can't fit, you can hang off the edge in deployment. That's GW rules. But UKTC have just said in their FAQ that you can just hang off the board whenever you want. So DDA can deploy like that if you want. It just depends where you want it, but it's nice to be able to open like that. So yeah, usually he's on the line, and then he can either go backwards to just hide, or you can go 8 inches forwards and just sit there. Ideally, maybe even there. So you going here, basically, yes, it opens up this firing line. You can evaluate this. This is it if you're going first, but you can do this if you go second, obviously. So what I'm going to be talking about is if you're going second. So you can scout here. Blocks. It hides really nicely behind this area to be shot down here. Obviously, you can move it over so you can get the line perfectly, and they have to kind of come out. And again, -1 damage. You can set up the spider. You can probably deploy the spider more to here if you think this is going to be in an aggressive spot. So it's got Feel the Pain, and what all this is going to be doing is forcing your opponent out to, it's something that can basically come down here, but there aren't many armies that are going to just want to step out with something valuable when that's 110 points, and there's a good, like, see, they had a Gladiator Lancer, like that doesn't die, so 1 Gladiator Lancer on average, because it's like, ooh, we hit 2 wounds and then my rolling. Look at that, punished on video. But yeah, you'd most of the time you'd pass half the saves, right? So it's like, right, well, they get 1 lot of damage through, cause a roll of 6, making this look like a terrible example. But then you have Feel the Pain and stuff like that, and -1 damage if you want. Star Shatter, you probably would have already -1 damage this. I know you wouldn't have, because I've not had a go yet. But you can tell I'm clearly out of practice with Star Shatter. But yeah, it's all about. But then that tank will die next turn because you can bring the big guns out to shoot it. You've got a DDA coming here to shoot, a DDA to come here and shoot, and it just forces the issue. And once your opponent's lost, some of their anti-tank threat, you can start stepping this stuff out. But yeah, if they've got way too much anti-tank, you can just plonk him right behind here because he fits really nicely in this gap, and you can't be shot unless your opponent's like literally stepping like right there or whatever, and then you can shoot back. Just plan. So you plan it so wherever they need to step out to shoot, it's somewhere that you can equally just reach the point they can see you from, if you get me. But otherwise, if you're going first, sometimes I'll just scout him 8 inches and then just move into this corner here. And again, it's super awkward to see because he hides in there pretty nicely. You know, it's like, say you stood there, you've got to be stood like there, and it's in the open. Then you can be shot back basically, and it's hard to kill for its points, as I mentioned. It's only 110 points, but here is where I really like it because you can kind of, if you position it right, you can kind of scout 8 inches there, so your opponent can't shoot you from down here. So it's kind of just in a really weird spot where it's kind of perfectly in the open, but your opponent has to step through to shoot, and that's what we want. We want them to step forward and into the open to shoot, so we can reactively move these things out into the open and shoot back. Because is your opponent going to commit something real for first turn on the scout move to kill that? Like he's kind of covering the objective as well. You know, you don't want it to fully cover the objective, but you want to just control the space, and then obviously your opponent can charge. So if your opponent goes first and they move behind this wall, and they're like, okay, well, I've got. Do they have 7OC? Here's a little trick, by the way, if you want to be able to see the objectives. Do they have 7OC on this point? Okay, well, I'm going to plus 1OC and just sit there. Or like you can even just charge as well because they're against the wall and just be annoying. And that's all they do is they're just cheap little scoring pieces almost. They do missions and so on. But that's what I meant by like the crab. So on some of the maps, these will be positioned like this. So you can scout up to it, and it's just really awkward to see them. You know, you can see them from an angle, but they can just scout into a really nice spot because of the way that they're positioned like that. And they're a walker without a base, which is, I think they're a walker anyway. Let's have a little look. Come on now. Let's have a look together. Are they a walker? Yes. So they're a walker without a base, which is one of the few things in the games still, like the few walkers in the game that don't have a base, because usually walkers are everything's measured from the base, but these measure from the hull still because they don't have a base. But yeah, you can just perfectly fit like that and just make the angles really tight and behind these like corner pieces because it fits in such a weird position like that. But this is a lot more open. But you see what I'm saying, where it's like you can just slot in like that. It's a really strange position. They sit on this. They sit on these. All right. I think they go underneath the first floor, but yeah, they go underneath. But you can see on top. You can definitely see them over the top. I think these are a bit too tall on this. The buildings, but yeah, they're not ideal for sitting in the buildings like that. But that's how I like to deploy them. So let's whoops. Let's go again, and I'll pull up a GW map. Let's have a look. Pick a map, any map. Whoops. I don't play this stuff, so I think this is the most common one, GW Layout 1. I've played on this one as well. I'll do Layout 1 because it's what I know. So, would say it's Hammer and Anvil. That's pretty common. I think Search and Destroy is a one that people play this layout on. I know Crucible is, right? Is that one? I apologize. I don't play this enough. Hammer. I've played. What did I play on this? I think it was this. I'm just gonna say this. So let's load them in again. You can see all of my terrible things here. Oop, that was quick. Okay. So really, you want to be putting these things in places where they can just scout up like that, and they're just hidden. Nice hidden, spot. Can't really be shot. But again, and then they can start doing stuff in the first turn, stripping cover, towing. Like they can do this kind of stuff where they weirdly just tow onto the point like that, and stuff like that. Where they can just see onto it. It's really strange the way they work. Or like for example, you can touch like that, so you're like touching the objective but not on the plate. This is like you're actually hidden there, and strangely enough, so and you want to just look for places when you place them down. You want to look for places you can scout them to where they won't be interacted with. This is a terrible firing line, so that's a bad spot. Whereas, which is why I don't think 2 is like amazing on this board. Maybe there's like a world where you put them there, but I'm pretty sure you can still shoot it. You'd have to measure it. I think it might be able to get away with that, but I think you probably just check like that. No, that sticks out too much. You do it like that, and then they go 8 there. Something like that. Yeah. So then you can go back a tiny bit. This is a very risky place to scout though, because of the angles, because you can definitely see from here. So, I probably wouldn't scout there, to be honest. But they can fit through here anyway, so you can have 2 there. But having 2 on the GW boards aren't as amazing. But if you were just running 1, this is definitely a good spot to put it because of where it can scout to, and it can touch on that point like that and be kind of hidden. And I haven't really got much experience playing them on WTC, but I will look nonetheless. So let's do one of the research maps. Let's have a look together on which maps are the steady on now. So I won't click on them, but you can deploy here, scout up here to avoid this line. You can deploy here and scout into this section to then move down into here. This one's a bit closed off in this area, kind of tunneling, because I don't think you can fit here. So it's kind of tunneling you down. You can't fit through these gaps. These are like 6 inches tall, so you'd have to add 6 inches of movement to get up and over. So it's not ideal. This one's a bit better, where you can kind of just scout into this pocket, but you can be seen down this angle. Or you can scout up here to get ready to go onto this objective here. You can scout up this way and go behind the wall, but I probably wouldn't, because you're not really impacting the game there. Or you can deploy here and scout forward, and then come down in your move phase or whatever. Yep, this one's very open, but I've not really tried them that much on WTC. They probably don't move that as well. You might be able to scout like here into here, then move into there, or like scout from there to there. But you can be seen in quite a lot. You can scout from behind here upwards and just come this way, but they're not as good on WTC compared to UKTC, and I've not really checked it out as much. Like you can do like the corner thing, like here and here, where you've got like the front of you there, so you can't be shot by this angle, and then go and then move this way, which is probably like the best way to do it on these boards. And these 4-5s like the most common singles boards. So, but just sort of recap, if we go back to this, so What do we use it for? It's a good early trader, good unit to like go on the objectives first before you start using your big stuff to force your opponent to commit something real, because its benefits are high OC, really good profile, toughness 8, 12 wounds, 4 pinball, and really good profile for um like durability wise. It's got good Overwatch, good into Elves, Sisters, stuff like that. Good threat and Overwatch on like these one wound bodies we're seeing a lot of at the moment. Um, Takes up a lot of space. Um, it's got surprise. Some of the strats work on it well. It kind of synergizes with what we're playing in these detachments. Um, and yeah, they're just pretty funky. For 110, can't complain really. And stripping cover is obviously really nice for the rest of the army. I just the One of the downsides of them are they're a bit fiddly to move, and they are very easily tri-pointed. Like your opponent can literally just put 3 models around one of the arms, and then it's tri-pointed. So they're very easily tri-pointed, but they're very good, fast, sit in nice places, all that stuff. So I hope as everyone has enjoyed what I've laid down. Just broke something then. I hope everyone just enjoyed the video. I will be making some more soon. I will see you guys in the next one, and let me know how you thought about it and all that jazz. Make sure you like, subscribe, everything that I should say at the beginning, but I'm saying at the end. Catch you later, boys. Bye.